Hi everyone, this video is going to explore topic 1.4, which is cellular energy. In terms of what the SACE board wants us to understand scientifically, we need to understand that cells require energy. The sources of energy are light for autotrophs and chemical or heterotrophs. Photosynthesis, respiration and fermentation are important energy processes. And we need to be able to have the skill where we can write the equation for photosynthesis, respiration and fermentation. We also need to know that cells require materials and the removal of waste. And we have to have the skill where we can compare the sources of materials for autotrophs and heterotrophs and explain the need for the removal of waste. Living things require energy to be able to survive and maintain life processes. Living things are classified as either autotrophs or heterotrophs, and this depends on how they source their energy. Autotrophs produce their own food and energy using non-living materials. They do this through the process of photosynthesis. An example in this image is the grass here, which uses the sun's energy through photosynthesis to create its own food. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, obtain food and energy by consuming materials derived from other organisms. They usually consume or eat this, and in this example here we have a cow which is eating the grass. The sun provides energy for all living things on Earth. Organisms that are photoautotrophs, such as plants, phytoplankton and cyanobacteria, are able to absorb the energy from the sunlight and use it to carry out the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is shown here in both a word and symbol equation. You'll be expected to remember the word equation. What this shows is that light energy is transformed into chemical energy. Photoautotrophs contain light-absorbing molecules such as chlorophyll, which can be found in the organelle called the chloroplast. The chloroplast uses carbon dioxide and water as raw materials in the presence of sunlight and the chlorophyll to produce glucose and oxygen. Photoautotrophs are primary producers in an ecosystem. The glucose they produce is used for respiration and growth in producers, consumers, and decomposers. Aerobic respiration is the process of releasing energy through the breakdown of glucose molecules in the presence of oxygen. The word and symbol equation summarizes the chemical reaction, where glucose, in the presence of oxygen, is broken down into carbon dioxide and water, with energy being released. ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, is usable energy in a cell. Even though this summary here looks quite simple, it's actually a highly complex and highly organized series of chemical reactions. Aerobic respiration occurs in the cytoplasm and cell membrane of aerobic prokaryotes and the cytoplasm and mitochondria of eukaryotes. Anaerobic respiration, on the other hand, is the process of releasing energy through the breakdown of glucose in the absence of oxygen. Alcohol fermentation breaks down glucose to form carbon dioxide and ethanol, and glucose breaks down to form lactic acid. Yeast, anaerobic bacteria, and animals have all developed ways of breaking down glucose in the absence of oxygen. Both of these processes only produce 2 ATP molecules, which is much less than when we break down glucose in the presence of oxygen. All living things require a consistent input of raw materials and the removal of waste to sustain life processes. Raw materials are the chemical compounds used in metabolism, or the chemical reactions that occur within a living organism to keep them alive. Waste materials are things produced that have no useful application in the cell. Waste materials can become toxic, and in plant cells they are removed through root hairs, stomata in the leaves, and lenticels in the stems. Excess ions are pumped into the soil from root hairs, and excess nutrients are stored in large vacuoles. Some waste materials are stored in vacuoles that are then removed directly from the plant by dropping its leaves or bark. In the case of plants, the raw materials include carbon dioxide and water for photosynthesis, and glucose and oxygen. There are also a range of raw materials shown here for other chemical processes. The waste materials include excess oxygen and carbon dioxide and water. Humans and other heterotrophs consume their raw materials derived directly from other living things. The raw materials for aerobic respiration are glucose and oxygen. There are also a range of other raw materials used in chemical processes shown here. Waste materials are removed from the human body in a range of ways. Carbon dioxide is removed through breathing. Water and urea are removed through the body in urine. Water, sodium ions, and chloride ions are removed from the body through sweat. Waste materials are detrimental to any living organism and need to be transported out of cells. Enzymes are catalysts specific to a chemical reaction and can be found in all living things. Some enzymes break down waste materials to prevent accumulation in the cells. In some cases, metabolic waste can be used or transformed and then used in other applications within the cell. In other cases, however, it simply needs to be excreted. In animals and plants, these enzymes are found in the organelles called the lysosome. Hopefully from this video you now understand that cells require energy and that the sources of energy are light and chemical. Hopefully you now understand that photosynthesis, respiration and fermentation are important processes for cells to be able to gain energy and that you can write the word equations for each of these. Hopefully we also know that cells require materials and the removal of waste and that you're able to compare the sources of materials for autotrophs and heterotrophs and explain why they must be removed.